Bill Hinkle here today from ProDad and ProDrenalin.com. Today we've got a simple, easy tutorial for you on Pinnacle Studio 19. It's a simple, inexpensive program to use for editing your video and doing some post-production on your footage, but yet it's got lots of features that many pro editors have. It's not full featured with all the bells and whistles that the big boys have, but for the money it's got enough to keep you busy as a home editor or a hobbyist editor for a really long time, and you can really grow into this program. This is a great little piece to add to your toolbox if you've got other tools from ProDad and ProDrenalin.com, things like ReSpeedr, ProDrenalin, Mercalli, or DFisher. These are great programs to pre-process your footage and do a few small things to them to fix them up, then bring them into Pinnacle Studio 19 and edit your movie and have a really cool final product with a combination of the two. Let's get started. I've already got Pinnacle Studio 19 open here. First thing we need to do is let's create a project bin. We need to have files to work with. So up here you see a drop down for project bins. If I come over to the right and click on Create New Project Bin, it's going to prompt me. I'm going to call this Quad Racing because I'm actually going to build a simple video of some footage I shot with my little race quad a few weeks back, having fun trying to learn how to fly it so I could race. We're going to need some footage to work with, right? So a couple ways we can get it. We can drag and drop stuff here. We can go up here to File, Import. The easiest way for me, I just right-click my mouse and do Quick Import. First, let's bring some pictures in. I got a picture here of my quad, and I got a picture of me and my silly goggles flying it. So I'm going to bring those in, and they will now show up in my project bin. They also show up in our preview monitor, but don't worry about that. We'll get there later. Now I need some video footage. Let's do our quick import again by right-clicking in our project bin. Now, under my ProDad folder, I've got a folder called Pinnacle Review, where I have placed a few video files that I'm going to use. Going to click open on those. You can see down here it's importing them, and now I've got some footage of me flying. When we bring that up, we can click out here and drag it around. You see I'm flying, I crash, I fly some more. We'll put a little story together out of this. It's pretty fun. You'll see here in a second. Second clip I have here is just a static camera I had focused on my race gate that I got for Christmas, that I'm trying to fly my little quad through that at high speeds. As you will see, it can be a lot of fun, and it's always guaranteed to create a few crashes too. So that's why we like playing with that. It's an adrenaline rush. You know, the start of our video really needs a title. Let's create a title. Come over here to our navigation. Down under content, there's something called titles. If I click there, the very first thing on the top is your generic basic title. That will probably do the trick for us. So I'm just going to take that, drag it down to my timeline, and drop it on my timeline. Now, we obviously are not having something called your text here, so let's change it. Just double click on that title and start typing in. I'm going to call this Quad Racing. Not going to worry about fonts. You can change all kind of other stuff over here. We're keeping this very simple to give you a high overview of how Pinnacle Studio works. I'm going to click OK, and we have our title. Okay, there's a simple title. If I want to make it longer, I can grab the end and slide it out, or I can make it shorter by doing the same thing. So let's make it about that long. That looks good to me. Now let's go back to our bin. Not that bin. Let's find our bin again. Quad Racing. Okay, now I need my two pictures, so I'm going to highlight both of them and select them both. I held down Shift and click on both of them, or Control click will work. Drag those down to my timeline. You see I got both images down there. Just going to leave them at the default length. So we've got a title and we've got two pictures. Next, we need our footage. All right, so first thing I need to do is I've got this really long clip here. And as you can see, it's 3 minutes and 13 seconds long, but I don't want that whole 3 minutes and 13 seconds. If I remember right, I drag down through here, I come by that gate and I miss it. Oh, rats. So I turn around and I make another pass, right along in here, I know I make another fun attempt at it. So I need to put an endpoint right there where I'm going to work from. Let's make a note, 3315. There's a couple ways we can get our endpoint in there. We can take and drag, but you see our timeline cursor went to it, which is okay, but that's kind of the hard way to do it. If I come out here to 3315, was that our time? Okay, 33, that looks pretty close, 3306. If I hit the I on my keyboard, I will set an endpoint. See how that happened? Now let's play that footage. Now while this is playing, I'm actually hearing the sound of my quad in my headphones, but you can't hear it on the tutorial. But it's there. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Well, that wasn't exactly pretty, was it? All right, let's go back to right where it hits the ground and stops. Okay, now we need to set an out point. I could come and drag that, but I'm going to pull my timeline cursor and have to remember where I'm at. So I'm going to do what again? That's right, I'm going to hit the O key on my keyboard, and I will set an out point. Click OK, and now you can see within our source window, all I have is that section where I'm flying down and I crash into the race gate. It was an epic crash too, by the way. We'll show you what it looked like here in a second. I'm going to drag that down to my timeline and drop it in. See how it snapped in? Now look at this. This is beige area or rust colored area, means the file's not rendered and ready for full frame playback yet. Once it turns all green, it's fully rendered. What's happening is Pinnacle is actually rendering in the background. If I start scrubbing around on my timeline, the rendering slows down, but it's still working while the computer has resources available. If I push the computer hard, it will slow down and stop. But it's doing this in the background, so later on when I'm done with other tasks, my files are going to be fully ready to watch and enjoy. Next thing I need to do is bring this clip into my preview window. And here is the clip. If I click into it and drag my cursor, it's really long. See my counter over here? This clip is like 40 minutes long. It's really big. So we need to find where I crashed into it. And if I remember right, I wrote a time code down. It's around 30 minutes and 40 seconds. So right in here is where I come through. You can see my quad there. Okay, I'm going to hit my I again for an endpoint. And let's hit the play button, see what we got. Well, that was kind of fun. You can see what it did. It actually ripped a hole in there. All right, so that's all I want of that. I'm going to press O again on my keyboard to set an out point. It doesn't look like it's that big, but if I were to zoom in on that timeline, you can see it's a couple seconds long. And this is my time code, so it's about 4 seconds long. But if I zoom completely out by grabbing the edges of the scroll bar down here, I've got my entire clip there again. So that's one way you can zoom in and out. That functionality also works on your timeline. I'm going to click OK, and now that I've got just the footage I want, I'm going to drag that back down onto my timeline and drop it in. Now, if I were to click back here, I'll still be able to preview this, but it may not be full frame rate and full resolution, but I'll be able to play my timeline. So I'm going to press the space bar, or actually I'll just hit the play button up here. Okay, I crashed, and now I'm coming through, boom, I crashed into it. See how that worked? The sound was gone that time, but we had it in our source window. That's because over here I have muted the audio on my timeline. I don't want to use that sound. Instead of trying to adjust the sound and turn it down, I'm just going to mute it because I'm not going to use any sound on this entire track. I'm going to add music later. All right, just for fun though, because that crash is pretty cool, I must say. It's kind of fun watching it go through there and die. I want to copy this clip, so I'm just going to click on the clip and right-click, copy, then move my cursor to the end of my clip right there, or you can hit the end key. Will take you to the end of your footage. If you hold down the control key and use your left and right arrows, it will scroll through your timeline to each different cut point. So I'm going to go right to the very end of my project by holding down control right arrow and hit paste. And I think that's pretty funny, so I'm going to do it again. So now I'm going to have that ripping the thing 3 different times. just because it's funny. I want to accentuate my agony of hitting that gate, just like that. Now, see how these are fairly long each time? If I grab the edge of that one and pull it back a little, you can see right there's where I said, ouch. Move that back, drag the edge of that one back just a little bit, drag the edge of that one back a bit. Now I've made it a little shorter. It's going to be a little bit more fun to watch. Okay, here I come. Here I come. Here I come. Boom. Okay, that was pretty fun. Now, I've got another section of this clip where I actually made it through the race gate, and it was my first time ever making it through the race gate at speed, where I was like booking down the field. All right, I'm going to slide this out point way off to the side, and I'm going to find in my clip where it is I fly through that race gate. Obviously, I'm still crashed upside down. I'm coming back. I'm fixing things. I'm about to take back off. And there we go. Now I'm lining up, and if I remember right, I'm going to hit my endpoint here with an I on my keyboard. I'm going to hit the play and see if this is where I make it through. Okay, that is the one I want, but it was a little far back. So if I click here and grab this endpoint, I can drag my endpoint and my cursor a little farther in. You don't need to watch that whole piece. Okay, let's start it about right there. Click the play button until we're through. That was pretty awesome. I'm going to set my out point. How do we set the out point again? That's right, we press O on our keyboard and we have our out point. If we click OK, we now have just that section in our preview window. Okay, I'm going to drag that down to my timeline, and if I hit the play button, we'll see it play through there. And there we go. You know what? I think I'll stop it right there. So I'm basically going to grab the edge and pull it back just a little bit. There we go. All right, I've done a little bit of an edit on my timeline. We can tweak it that way. If you don't quite set the perfect in and out up here, we can adjust it down here. We will dive into some more of those features in an advanced tutorial that will also be coming up very soon, so keep your eyes open for that. Now I need to show you the race gate from the static shot where I actually go through. I'm going to drag my out point out so I have room to find my clip, and if I remember right, somewhere around 36.5 is where we fly through it. We're at 36.27. Let me set an endpoint there in case that's close. I'm going to click play. And I think I hear myself coming. There we go. All right, so I'm going to set the out point because we made it through. I'm going to zoom in on my timeline a little bit because I think I need to adjust that a little bit more. Going to drag this back down. Let's zoom in just a tiny bit more. Okay, here is where I started with my endpoint, but actually I don't want you to have to watch all that dead space. So where do I actually fly through? There it is right there. See, my drone just starts into the window, and if I hit the play button, that's really all you need to see right there. All right, I'm going to hit OK. And now I just have that tiny, tiny section down here in my preview window. So I'm going to drag that down to my timeline. And once again, let's repeat that clip. So I'm going to click it, hit copy. I'm going to hold down my control right arrow key to go to the end of my clip or my cut point and hit paste. And now we've done it twice. There we go through. There we go through. Okay, we're just about done. I'm going to hit control right arrow again to get to the end of my footage. Now, we need a title for the end, right? We're just going to say the end. We're not trying to be crazy creative here. We're just trying to show you how to do it. Double click on our basic title and type in the end. Okay, it's asking me for a place to save it this time. Okay, we closed it, and if we go into our navigation to titles, there's a folder here called titles that I created, and you will find our ending title. Going to drop that in, and now we have a title on the end. Now remember, we have all of our audio muted, so let's have a little fun. Remember where we crashed? Must have been right about there, because that's where our gate was. So I'm going to back up until I hit the thing right there. Okay, now for a little bit of fun, let's go over here to navigation, and there is something called sound effects. And if I remember right, where the folder for gunshots, if I click there, there's a bomb that's pretty cool. I'm going to drop that into the timeline above, right about where I crash. I think I'm going to need to zoom in a little bit to be more precise. I believe I crash right about there again, so I'm going to grab this and slide it back to where I crashed, right about there. So now when I play the timeline, just for fun, listen. Okay, that was kind of fun. It was crazy, but it was fun. All right, there was one other little sound effect I wanted to do. I'm going to zoom back out on my timeline a little bit. At the very end, when I fly through the gate successfully, right here in our sound effects crowds, there's one called applause. Let's give me a round of applause. Right about there, let's start it. See how it's kind of hard to line this up? You notice me fighting that a few times. If I want to, I can come up here and turn off this magnet. That's called snapping. And you can see it snapping to the clips. Right now, it's getting in my way. So if I turn that off, I can take and drag this to where I want it. You see my timeline cursor stuck to the front of it, which is good. And right about there is where I want my applause to start. Okay, let's fly through there. We're flying through, we're flying through. Yay for Philip, yay! Okay, let's make that a little shorter because we really don't need it to be that long. If I want to, I can put some fades on there so it fades in and out. That's a tutorial for another day. This is just a quick overview of how to do a basic, fun, simple edit so you can upload finished movies to the internet. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here with my control right arrow to the end of my footage, or if I wanted to, you can hit the end button, or if you wanted to, you can go to end. This button right here, click, and it takes you to the end of your footage. So we have a finished movie complete with sound effects, but we need some music. Let's go create some music. You're saying, create music? I'm not a musician. Never fear. Pinnacle Studio has you covered. Let's close the sound effects down and go to Soundstage. And I think there's a pretty fun clip down here called, where was it at? It's Electronica, Temporal Distortion. If I right click on there, I can open in Soundstage Editor, and this is where it gets really cool. Electronica, Driving Space, Temporal Distortion. Here's the cool thing. Look down here. We can set our duration. If you remember from our clip, here's 40 seconds, here's 50. We're sitting on about 43 seconds. So let's put in 0 minutes, and let's make it 1 second longer than we need it. So let's call it 44 seconds. So let's click Save As and come down here to the end and put 44 seconds, just so we can find it easy. And click OK. Now if we come back up here to our bin, you'll see we have temporal distortion 44 seconds. There's our song that we have created. Now we have one problem. We've got sound effects on this track. We've got video on this track. We need another one. So if I right click over here on my tracks, insert new track, let's put one below this track so we can have our sound right here. Going to take and drag that down, and with any kind of luck you will see it's just about the right length for our song. Look at that. You got an intro, we start going having some fun, and then we basically end and fade out with the end showing. So if we were to play our project, get the general idea. It'll play all the way through. And we have a finished project complete with the end on it. I'm going to drag that little section right back a tiny bit to match up with my title. We're done. We have a movie that we'll load to YouTube and be proud of it and show it off to our friends. So how do we do that? If we come up to File, Export, we could do that, or we can come over here and just click Export. From our export screen, there are some options of file types. There's File Export, where we can just export a file of our flavor. If you know anything about the different types of files that you may need for wherever you're exporting, you can select one there. You can export to a disk. You can export to a cloud. This is going to be a very popular option. If you wanted to upload it to a device like an Apple, Xbox, PS3, PS4, PlayStation Portable, you've got options there that will put it in the right size, right format, and right everything else that you need to make that upload easy. Let's go back and choose Cloud and say I wanted to publish this to my YouTube channel. The action is published. That's all we've got to do. We hit Start Publishing. It's going to log into YouTube, ask me for my password. Hope I remember my password. I'm going to allow it to manage my YouTube account. I'm going to call this Quad Racing. Create with Pinnacle Studio. I can tag it however I want. Public. I'm going to make this one personal because I really don't want to share it with a whole bunch of people because it's just a sample. And if I wanted to, I can make it 1080p. And I click on Start. And it's going to start exporting my footage. And it will then upload it to YouTube. Okay, it says it's uploaded to YouTube. Let's go out and find out if it's there. Here is my channel. I'm going to go to my video manager, and there it is, Quad Racing. That is our file. It does everything for you, including uploading to your YouTube channel. Couldn't get much easier than that. I'm going to hit close there and finish out there. There you have it. Simple, quick, easy, basic project editing in Pinnacle Studio 19. So get out there, edit some video, upload it, share it with your friends, and make some fun movies. Till next time, you have a great day. This is Phil Hinkle from ProDad and ProDrenalin.com.